Um, Pius, anything? All right. So can you hear me? All right. So I think we have enough time for some of the participants. So I think it's a good time to just share with them now while we are waiting for my turn. What do you think? Yeah, what do you think? Because I called Jaymikee now, it's not picking my call. And that's what I'm thinking too. Because I also do the announcement after each session. So I'm looking at it that the session might be longer than expected. So let me just communicate what I need to do now while waiting for it. Yeah, I don't know. Hello, everyone. Welcome, Jaymikee. Hello, Jaymikee. Welcome. Tolani, we can go live, please. Jaymikee is here already. Tolani, are you there? Yeah, before it will take over, I would like to say a word of prayer and we'll proceed with the session. Our Father in heaven, we say thank you. Thank you for how you have helped us. Thank you for your grace. Thank you for your benevolence. Be thou exalted in Jesus' name. Thank you for this privilege you have given unto us. We ask that you be glorified in Jesus' name.
Amen.
Jesus be exalted. Let your counsel prevail and let your name alone be glorified. In
Amen.
Jesus' name we have prayed. Amen.
Amen.
So welcome to Studio 513. Studio 513 is that hub where we are passionate about shaping the world of content out there. And I believe you hear more from the facilitators. By the way, I am Emmanuel Ojomo, yeah, and I am the community manager as well. So very briefly, I'll read out Jaymikee's profile and it will take over the session. Okay, so Joshua Mike Bamiloye, fondly called Jaymikee, is a gospel music artist, a movie producer, and director. He began his music career as a background music producer for Mount Zion Film Productions. He started releasing his religion-based songs in 2013 and has since released several albums, including One Man Nation, Generation Next, Rebirth, Living Sacrifice, and more. Some of his hit songs include Here For You, Adara, Spirit Move, and I Have a Father. So we want to welcome Joshua Mike Bamiloye to take over the section. Over to you, sir.
All right. Can we all hear me? Let me know
Yes.
if we cannot hear me. All right. Okay. Welcome everybody once again to Studio 513. My name is Joshua Bamile, aka Mikey. Thank you very much, my brother, for the wonderful um you know introduction. All right, so let's begin the business of the day with animation. And if you are having any difficulty at any point in time hearing me, just let me know so that I can adjust. Okay. Um, so, what is animation? Let's begin. Let's fire on straight away. What is animation? Animation is simply a series of images um, coming together and passing by in a consecutive order whereby it creates motion. So it's safe to say that the end result of every animation is motion. If there is no motion, then it's not animation. So a series of images passing together in quick succession, forming what we call motion. So simply when something goes from point A to point B, what makes it move is because it has been recorded in several motion, one point to the next point, next point to the next point to the next point, whereby it now leads to what is called animation. Okay, so Why is animation important? Because animation is we creating the motion. If it's a recorded video whereby you just record yourself, it is not animation, it's a video. So even though a video is also a series of images called frames, even though it's also video is also a series of images called frames, animation is where we draw and create those frames. I hope you are following. So I want us to understand the basics of animation before we even dive into animation at all. Understand that animation is about motion, and it's about a movement from one place to the other. But that movement is created using various images passing by in quick succession. Okay, so um, pardon me. How many hours do I have so that I don't overshoot my time? I want to be sure so that I know how to pack all of this as compact as I can.
All right, this session is slated for 2 hours, so you
Okay.
have 1 hour and
Okay.
some minutes left. Thank you.
Fantastic. Okay. So as I was saying, so that's animation. So let's quickly look at. I'm going to also share my screen from so that I can also have uh, something like a board. All right, so as to speak. So I talked about that. So now in animation, there are a few things that we look out for. I'm going to quickly share my screen now, and I'll try to open a blank one. All right, let me open a screen size. Okay, so in animation, there are what we call elements of animation or principles of animation, but we are only going to look at the key ones here. Oh, pardon me. Okay, principles of animation. So when we're talking about the principles of animation, there are 12 principles, but we're only going to look at four majorly important ones. And the first one we're going to be looking at is now what are even the principles of animation? What are the principles of animation? Principles of animation are rules that guide every animator. These rules guide the animator to creating his animation. Because you see, creating animation requires some rules that help your animation to be more interesting. You cannot animate exactly the way it is in real life. You have to add the principles of animation. For example, if someone wants to act surprised in real life, you just have this. But in animation, you have following the principles. You have this squash down, you know, stretch, and then resting pose. So like, so we do that in animation, but we don't do that in real life. But you see, when you're watching it in animation, it doesn't distract you. Rather, it helps to sell the effect you are trying to create. I hope I'm making sense. All right, so let's quickly look at the first one. The first one, which is the one that you see almost every time, but you might not notice, is squash and stretch. So let's see, squash on a flat surface and stretch. Squash and stretch. That's the first principle. So the most important example that we use for this is like a bouncing ball. You see, when it bounces downward, it squashes. When it hits the ground, it squashes. When it wants to go upward, the ball stretches. I hope we are getting that. That's basic, very very basic. And bouncing ball is one of the most basic things that you will animate if you want to learn animation to begin with. Okay, so squash and stretch is the first thing. Another way we use squash and stretch is, when someone wants to, like we said, someone's act surprised. We don't just do, we do the squash, the stretch, and then the resting pose. Okay, so that's one of the principles we use and is to animate squashing and stretching. If you want to do a bouncing ball, let's say I want to use this app for example. Now, if you notice, I've not mentioned any app because a lot of people like to do this thing where we just jump into what software do you use. When I do anything, they're like, oh, what app do you use? the mindset that we've had is that these apps are what helps us to accomplish these things. But originally, it's the knowledge that helps you to accomplish it. So what I'm not gonna to 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 drill into a specific app, but I'm going to be teaching you the knowledge so that any app or any software that you use, it's going to you would have the basic knowledge to conquer that app or that software, so to speak. I hope we understand. So right now, I'm just using Procreate to explain the principles of animation, but it doesn't mean that this is what I want to use to teach us animation. Okay. So let me visible this one for now. Now let's use the bouncing ball as a very typical example. Animation assist. So in a bouncing ball, I'm going to draw probably this is the ground, all right, and then this is our ball. So let's say our ball is bouncing. Now traditionally, or let me say, to an amateur, you would want to what, just draw your ball here. What did the ball do in the next frame? The ball started bouncing, so you just draw this, and you just draw this, and you just probably draw this, and then you just draw this. Why? Because the ball is bouncing, so you have this, right? So let's keep going. You had another frame, you had another frame, and now the ball wants to come back down. You had another frame. Put the ball here, put the ball here, put the ball here, and of course, the ball has landed back to our ground. Let me put a new frame here. Just hold on. Okay, sorry, 1 second. Okay, so remember the bouncing ball. So if I play this now, this is what you have. Now it looks fine, but it's boring. That's the problem with this. It's boring. Let me remove the onion skin. The onion skins are way too many. Just put it. Frames per second is still 12. Onion skin should be down to 2. Okay, so this is what you have. Let me slow it down so that we can see it properly. This is nice, but it's boring. If you want to give life, you add what is called squash and stretch. So I'm going to delete all of this and then draw another one. So let's say this is the ground, okay? And let's make it the foreground, okay? So now let's add a frame. The ball starts from the squashing because it wants to bounce, okay? So it starts from the squashing. Now the next frame is it's upright. Now the next thing is shoots up. It shoots up and still up like this. Then when it gets up, it becomes normal. And now when it's coming back down, it shoots down again. And then it goes back to the squash. So if I play this now, can you see this? So you see this ball has a more interesting character because it's squashing and it is stretching. I hope we understand that now. I hope we understand that now. So that is squash and stretch. Let me delete all of this again. Delete, delete, unlock, delete. So squash and stretch is our first one. I hope we understand now. Number two, the number two principle is anticipation. Anticipation. So what is anticipation? That is, before an action, there is a, will I say, pre-action. There's like what we call it pre-action. That is an action before the main action. For example, when I wanted to draw the ball bouncing, the first thing I did was what? I made the ball squash before bouncing. You see, that squashing before bouncing is anticipation. When you want to throw something, you don't just throw like this. Most of the times you wind back and then you throw. So you see that winding back is the anticipation. Okay. When you want to do something, for example, the guy wants to act surprised, he first of all anticipates before acting surprised. When you want to run in an animation, you don't just do run. In cartoons, you see them do this first before running. All that is anticipation. So for example, let me use another type of ball as an example. I'm going to invisible this one again. So I'll create another layer for this animation just so you understand what I'm saying. So now let's assume I want this particular bean bag to fly across this way. I want it to go like pew. Now animating it, because of the speed, I'll just do this one, add another frame, and I do like a pew, and then add another frame, and then to the bean bag again. Boom. So if I play this now, it's just pew, pew, pew. That's all. I'll just hold this frame long enough. So it's just pew. It's happening so fast. All right, let me hold this frame a little longer, a few frames. So can you see? That's boring. Although it works, but it's boring. But imagine if before the bean delete. Now imagine if this bean, before it flies across, what does it do? It anticipates. So what's the anticipation? I add a frame, I take it back further. Maybe no, don't let me answer. Let me make it go this way. And then I now make it shoot. So it's like, well, oh, sorry, this should be in a different frame. So I make it shoot. Add another frame. And then lands. So now when I play it, it has this pew. I'll play it again. So you see now, it looks like it did this. You see, it did this. So does that? That's anticipation. So it's anticipating pew, before landing. Can you see that? Pew. See that? So that's the second principle. There is a third principle that we are also going to look at. And so some people are wondering, and they are saying, oh, when are we going to get to the to the interesting bit of animation? But you see, the thing is, before you can begin to talk about, before you can begin to practicalize animation, it is very important to practice these principles. So before you even get into animating people, drawing people, I want you to first of all experiment the bouncing ball using the principle of squash and stretch, and then anticipation. I hope we get that. So the third principle that I want us to look at, is follow through. Follow through. All right, follow through. And what is follow through? Follow through. I'm using the example of the bean bag that we've done. Let me quickly share my screen again. So using the principle of using the bean bag, I'm going to show you what follow through is. Now, after this bean has landed, you see it just lands and freezes. But originally, for example, when you're running and then you stop all of a sudden, your body does not just stop. Your body follows through and then comes back. So there is this recoil. For example, if you shoot a gun, it doesn't just go, bah. It does this, bah. So you see that? So so follow through is like the action after the main action. So let me just quickly write this one down. Number three is follow through. So that's like the action after the main action. The action after the main action. So this one is the action before the main action. The action before the main action. Okay, I hope we are following. So that is follow through. Oh, I wanted to show us I wanted to show us a very typical example of follow through. So let's use this bean as an example. So the bean goes back. That is anticipation. Pew, speeds, which is the main action. Now when it lands, we're supposed to add another frame where it now goes this way again. It goes this way again. Before now standing upright. So if I play through now, this is pew. What's that again? Pew. See that? So let me let it land here. So, pew. See that? Pew. So after landing, there is a recoil. All right. So it applies to several other things in animation. It's not just, but I'm using this as an example so we can understand. So when someone says, why? So you don't just do why, you do anticipate why. Now they follow through. Same thing with the hair. When the hair does this, the hair goes like this and then comes back. Or when someone flicks the hair, the hair does not just do, the hair does this, flicks and then returns. So there's always probably three actions: the anticipation, the main action, and then the follow through. I hope we are following. All right. So the fourth one that I would like to talk about before we move on sorry about that. The fourth one that we have to talk about, give me 1 second. So yeah, we've talked about squash and stretch, we've talked about anticipation, follow through. Now let's also talk about staging. Let's talk about staging. I'm going to explain that very quickly. Yeah, another word for follow through is overlapping action. So I want to talk about staging. Let me quickly talk about staging. So what is staging? Staging is a way of planning your animation. Let me quickly explain. You see, when you're animating, because you have complete control over every single thing, it is important for us to plan our animation before we even animate. It is important to plan your animation before you. For example, when I was working on the animation for the subscribe Abejoye, everything had to be thought out before even animating at all. Where is the camera angle meant to be? Where are the subjects meant to be? Are they supposed to be side by side? Are they supposed to be facing each other and one back in the camera this way? Every single script, every single line has to be planned. For example, we see in professional settings, when an action is meant to happen, they make sure that multiple actions don't happen at the same time so that your eyes can catch it. For a typical example, someone in an animation, a character knocks someone on the head. While he's knocking someone on the head, maybe the car explodes in the background, and then a child is supposed to run across the screen behind the main character. If you animate those three things at the same time, the audience does not know which one to look at. So where does staging come in? When you plan the position of each of the characters and their actions. So it is knocking head, boom, explosion, then someone runs. That way you staged how your animation is meant to look. These things help a lot when you're animating. Okay, so yeah, so that's that. I hope we are getting that. I hope we are getting it. So we are going to do like a very subtle animation here just to help us understand animation. I need to also emphasize that animation in itself is not Normally, I don't like saying things are difficult. I'm an advocate for saying things are easy, but animation is a time-consuming venture. So if you're not the type that can sit down for hours at a time, then I would not recommend you to even be an animator in the first place. You have to be ready to sit down. You have to be ready to sit down. But I also want to talk about this principle, and this principle will help if you are using things like CapCut to animate. And in this sense, now I'm talking of motion. It's not necessarily drawing. There is something called um uh pose to pose. Let me say pose to pose. But in editing, we call it keyframing. We call it what? Keyframing. Not all animation softwares have keyframing, but editing softwares usually have keyframing. So what is keyframing? Why I want to teach us this is because it will even help you to do some simple animation. For example, a car driving on the road. Top view. Are you getting me? I'm going to explain that very soon. So if you are using something like an editing software, let me share my screen. 1 second. 1 second. 1 second. So the reason why I want to teach us this keyframing is because you're going to use it a lot in several instances. So let me quickly go to perhaps let me make two drawings. I will make two drawings first of all. I'm going to make two drawings. Let me delete this one first. So the first drawing is probably a road. Okay. And I'm going to try and do something. I'm going to just add this black and white things to it. Black and white, the black and white things at the side of the road. So I'm just gonna, oh, sorry. So don't worry about what I'm doing. You're going to understand very soon. Duplicate. Duplicate. All right, so I've done the first part. I'm going to also do the second part. So I'll just merge all of this and duplicate to this point. Now, I think I should extend this because I'm trying to draw a road just to use as an example, okay? So just bear with me. Bear with me. Okay. All right. So I think I'm good enough. I think I'm good enough. Okay. So with this image right here, let me just save it. I'm going to save this image. Share JPEG. Save image. Now I'm going to draw another image. And this image will just be probably the top view of a car. Don't mind my drawing. No, I'm not the best artist. Okay. So top view of a car, right? All right. So I'm going to save this one again. Save. No, I think I should reduce the size of this before saving. Canvas, where you canvas, copy and resize. So I'm going to show you a very typical example of how keyframing works. Okay. By the way, I have not yet opened Calipeg. This is still Procreate. I'm yet to open Calipeg for those who are asking. Because right now we're still teaching principles. Now, let's say we want the road to move. The concept of keyframe that I was talking about Yikes. Let me now go back. Since I've saved everything. I've saved what I need to save. So I'm just gonna go back to. All right. Because some people, I'm sure when we were advertising animation, some people would have thought that animation is basically, come here, 30 minutes, put you through one app, and then boom, you're animating. No, I know. Animation is a journey, and I've been on this journey for over 5 years, and I'm still learning. But anyway, understanding the principle doesn't take as long as experiencing the journey itself. So I was talking about post to pose, but in my case, I'm calling it keyframing. So keyframing works when you're trying to change the value of an object on the timeline, changing the value of an object. And when I mean value, I'm talking about the scale, the position, and or opacity. These three values can be keyframed on your software or your app. All right. The scale, what is scale? How big or small it is. The position, where it is placed in your canvas, and then the opacity, that is the transparency of it. Are you getting it? Now, the way keyframe works is that you give it a value at a particular time and then create a keyframe. Now, what does keyframe mean? Keyframe is when you store all the value or a specific value into a particular point. So let's assume you have a timeline and your timeline is, 1 second, 2 seconds, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13. And the way timeline works. You press play and then your video goes in this direction. Okay? Goes in that direction. Now, you can tell the computer when you set a keyframe here. Usually, keyframes are most of the time looking like diamonds, like diamonds and shapes. You can set a keyframe here and tell the computer that I want the scale to be 20% in size. And then you now set another keyframe here, which is in the 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 10, 11. 11th second. You tell the computer that I want the scale to have risen to, you want the scale to have risen to 80%. So this is one keyframe, another keyframe. So what does it mean? What the computer will do is that on this place, right, the scale of whatever object it is will be on 20%. And as it goes, as the cursor moves, that is, as you press play, it begins to change to 21, 22, 23, 24, all the way to 80. So when it gets here, it would have been on 80%. Let's use position, for example. Let's say I set a keyframe here, and then I say in this keyframe, the position of an object will be, right here. And then I set another keyframe and set the object to have moved from this point to this point. So when I push play on my player, when I play it, what happens is that as the cursor moves, all right, as it moves, this object will begin to move as well. And when the cursor gets to this point, the object would have gotten to this point. Now let's practicalize it. Let me go to a video editing software, for example. Okay. And now I'm going to create a new one. Now let's import the two videos, the two drawings that we did. I did this drawing. And where's the second drawing? Oh goodness, don't tell me I didn't save it. I didn't save the second drawing. Let me quickly do the second drawing again. Second drawing is a car. So let's just quickly do that. All right, so let's assume this is our car from the top view. Okay. Okay, so I'm just going to quickly save this. Save JPEG as well. Save image. Now, let me quickly go to the editing software. This is my car. Bring it to the timeline. Okay, this is the road rather. So let's import the car. This is the car. I'm putting it on top. Now, I need to reduce the size of this. Hold on. Let's crop this. Left. Right. 1 second. Now, so we have our car on the road. Okay. Now, if I want to keyframe this, I want to keyframe the road to move. What I simply want to do is to let the road. Now, my hand is on the road right now. Let me even show you so you can see a cursor. Okay, so if I should click on the road, all I simply want the road to do is this. How am I doing that? I'm simply dragging the image from right to left or from left to right. So I'm going to come to the beginning of the clip. Remember we talked about keyframes, right? Remember we talked about keyframes. So I'm going to come to the beginning of the clip. This is the beginning of the clip. I will show you keyframe. So we're also going to do keyframes on Calipeg so you can understand. So I come to the beginning of the clip. I place my picture here, and I go to size and positioning. I create a keyframe. I've created a keyframe down here. And now, by the time I go on till the end of that clip, I now change the position to here. So when I play it, here is what happens. Let me push play. Can you see that? The road is moving. But let's even now just place the car in the center. Let's place the car in the center. I'm going to show the car from the beginning to the end. So what happens if I play it? The car is what? Car is moving. Can we see that? What did I do? All I did was to keyframe the road to move from left keyframe to right keyframe. If I want to do the same with a car, with this car, let's say the road is static and I want the car to move. It's just the other way around. So I'm going to delete the keyframes that I created here. Delete. We're also going to do this on Calipeg, but I want to do it on another software so we can understand that it's not about the software, but about your ability to do it. Now, I'm going to go to the car. So this is the car right now. I'll go to the beginning of the clip. I want to edit this car. Now, at the beginning of the clip, I want the car to be here. All right, I'm going to set a keyframe. At the end of the clip, I want the car to be here. So you see, I've set 2 keyframes. You see, in this app, it's not a diamond like I mentioned. It's a circle. You see this blue circle here, and the second blue circle here. So when I play it, watch what it looks like. Let's go to the beginning of the clip and play. You see that? That is keyframing. See that? That is keyframing. That is what? Keyframing. That is keyframing. So that's how it works. I hope we understand. I hope we understand now. So that is what keyframing is. That is what keyframing is. So I want you to put that in mind, because when you're animating, sometimes you don't necessarily want to draw things all over again. You just simply want them to move from place to place. You use keyframes. Now, I need to note that not all softwares or apps have the ability to keyframe. This editing software can keyframe. Procreate cannot keyframe. Procreate Dreams can keyframe. Calipeg can keyframe. Flipperclip cannot keyframe. So I need you to keep that in mind. So sometimes you might want to do some effects on another app, then export it and take it to another app and do the rest of the things you want to do. You get me? So let's quickly go to Calipeg. Let's quickly go to Calipeg. I want to do that same thing in Calipeg. So I go to plus. I come to plus, which is up here. I go to new shot. Not in 4K, of course. I want it to be in a lesser format. I need to bring this down. 1920 by 1080. That's HD. 1080. 920 by 1080. Create. Excuse me. It's a blank canvas right now. We want to do the same trick here, right? So if I import that picture, I think this is where we import. No, sorry, I import down here. One second. Let me just see if I can drag and drop. Is it possible to drag and drop? Oh, great. It's possible to drag and drop. So this is my car. And this is my road. My road should be in another layer. I'm also going to briefly talk about layers. I'll briefly talk about layers. So I'm dropping the road. And the road should be under the layers. Okay, so let me quickly, this is where I talk about layers. Now, when you're animating, even same thing happens when you're digitally drawing, digital drawings. You get to moments where you have to deal with layers. And it's important to understand what layers are about. You see, when you're drawing, traditionally, you are drawing everything on a piece of paper, right? But digitally, when you want to do these kinds of things, it's always safer to draw in different layers. For example, the outline should be on one layer, the color should be on another layer, the shadows and shades should be on another layer. Excuse me. That way, you are able to control them. If you put everything on one layer, if you want to delete, if you want to erase an outline while leaving the color, you would have to be gently tracing out the outline while trying not to affect the color. If you want to erase a color, you might end up erasing the outline. So it's better to just put them on separate layers. Okay, so let's do the keyframe thing here. So I have my car here. Let's go to this car. We put it here for a start. I need to, can this one erase? Okay, it can erase. I'm going to erase the excesses of that frame. Okay, so we have our car here, starting here. Okay, let me stretch it out. Stretch this one out as well. Now let's go to the car. Let's go to the car. 0. All right. Now I'm going to add a keyframe. You see transformation. You see this diamond? That's the keyframe. Okay. So I click it. I double click on. I want to show you where I'm double clicking. I double clicked on this line right here. This line right here. Okay. Now, when I want it at this point to be here, you see, I the keyframe, the console. I took the what is it called? The sensor. It's not a sensor. It's supposed to be the cursor. Yeah, I took the cursor. I placed it at the end here, and then I dragged my card to the end. So when I play it now, this is what we have. See that? That's basically keyframing. So you can keyframe anything. Now that we've gone into a much complex one, let's go back to the simple stuff, which is the frame by frame animation. Frame by frame animation. I can delete this one. I'm not done. I'm not using you anymore. All right. So frame by frame. There's some things I need us to understand when dealing with frame by frame. In animation, you are either on, oh, sorry, you are either on, come on. I'm not done with this end. I'm done with this now, so I can delete. And also done with this, I can delete. You are either on, there's something we call frames per second. Frames per second. So what does it mean when we say frames per second? It means the amount of drawings per second. So traditionally we have 6 frames, 12 frames, and 24 frames per second. If you are going higher than this, you are just punishing yourself. So the most commonly used frame per second is 12 frames per second. That's why I have 12 at the top right corner. I don't know if you see it. You can see 12 here. Can you see that? 12. So 12 frames per second is the most commonly used frame. So it means we are drawing 12 times. So you can see from here to here, this is 1 second. This is 1 second. So if I want to do something like saying Jaymikee, and then I want to draw it again. If you're wondering why there's a green effect here, it's because it's something called onion skin. I'll talk about that very soon. Is a very useful tool in animation. Onion skin helps you. I hope we are writing down all these points because I didn't do a PowerPoint presentation. Though. I'm gisting and lecturing as the inspiration is flowing. All right, so if I play this now, can you see Jaymikee is alive? Jaymikee is alive, so I can keep doing this. And then probably I can duplicate it, duplicate and put here, duplicate and put here. So if I play this all together, we have this. So keyframing onion skinning helps you to know what was previously drawn on the previous frame so that you can implement that in your next frame, or helps you to know what the next frame is meant to be about. For example, let's assume that the frame that you first drew, frame number 1, right, has the arm down. Let's say it has the arm down. And then you want the arm to come up. So you have to draw it again, but then probably put the arm somewhere like here. Okay. And then the next drawing, you can see that it's showing you. Oh, I hope we are able to see this. We are. Oh my goodness! It's not showing the onion skin on. Okay, it's showing it. It's showing it. Okay, it's showing it. So you can see that because you're able to see the previous frame, it guides you into how the next frame, where the next frame is meant to be. If I didn't have any onion skin, first of all, I wouldn't know where to draw this stationary hand. Then I wouldn't know how much spacing to give my drawings. Okay. So this is what let's continue. If this is one frame, the next part is what? It goes upward. Let's say it goes upward. So something like this. Can you see that? So if I play this together, can you see? We have motion. We have animation. I hope we are seeing that. So keep onion skin helps you to know the previous frame and sometimes even the frame after. Have an idea, like a shadow of what is there, so that you can know how to animate what you are meant to animate. I hope we are getting it. So I was saying frames per second, 12 frames per second. So 12 frames per second, 0 to 12. Professionally, you can do 12 or you can do 24, right? But I would advise you to stay at 12. Now, another key principle I want us to keep in mind when animating is this. This one, I don't know if it is part of the 12, but it is what we use in modern day animation. And that is, you don't have to draw the entire thing every single time, especially if there's not much motion. For example, if a guy is doing like this, if a guy is talking to somebody and he's standing still, you don't have to draw the whole thing all over again. You can draw what we call key poses. Key poses. Key poses. What are key poses? They are the main poses of your action. For example, if someone said, "How could you do this to me? I told you I wasn't the person that was there, but yet you lied against me." Now, what are the key poses? How could you do this to me? That's key pose 1. I told you, this is key pose 2. Blah, 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 blah. But you still went ahead. This is key pose 3. So every other one in between that is actually, by the name suggests, called in between. In betweens. Are we getting it? So key poses. When you're animating, stage number 1, of course, get your script. Get your script. After getting your script, record your audio. Record your audio. Then draw the storyboard. And then draw the key poses. So this is where I'm talking about. I've not mentioned all these other ones, but I jump straight to key poses. But let me quickly mention that I don't need to talk about script writing. All right, I don't need to talk about that one. But make sure in your script writing you have descriptions for any other idea, concept, imagination that comes to your mind, and write it down according to the dialogue. Now, recording your audio, of course, the reason why we do recording audio first is because you need to animate on top of that audio. If you don't have the audio and you're animating, what if the person that is now talking now says, "Hey, my God," and your animation only has "my God"? So what happens? You understand? So it's better to have all the audio first, and then you use it as a guide to animate. Next, we have storyboard. So what is storyboard? Storyboard is when you use images to plan how your scenes are meant to be. People use storyboard even in professional filmmaking, and it is not an exception in animation, because you need to plan everything. And your storyboard can be rough sketches, but it's usually like this. It's usually like this. You have a box, you have the image. Maybe the first shot is supposed to be a guy staring at the camera with his hands in his pocket, all right, with his goofy ass tie, you know, the goofy tie, and what else again? Funny hairstyle. That's storyboard 1. Storyboard number 2, you have maybe someone approached him. Okay, I'm just drawing the roughest storyboard possible. Your storyboard does not have to be this rough. The guy is still standing here. Can you see? Storyboard number 2. So, and on like that. When you do that, it helps you to know that, okay, for this storyboard 1, this is the kind of background that we need. You write some details here. Storyboard 2, this is the kind of background you need. Storyboard 3 can be the guy's close up. Okay, it can be his close up. So that way, you don't have to draw what you don't need. You don't have to draw what you don't need. I'm going to show us an example of a storyboard that I've done in the past. Let me stop sharing for now while I look for that, so that we can have an idea of what storyboards look like. My storyboard is one of the ugliest storyboard, but very, very useful. It's one of the ugliest, but it is very useful. Now, yeah, let me share my screen. Okay. All right. So can we see this? This is an example of a storyboard. I told you my storyboard is one of the ugliest. Can you see? This This is the storyboard for the episode 1 of Jimmy Badru. The Curious Life of Jimmy Badru is a series that Studio 513 is working on. You can see the storyboard sitting down by the car. The father is talking to him through the rear view mirror. The boy is talking. The father responds. The sister responds. Can you see? Now in the church scene, we have the pastor talking, blah, blah, blah. Can you see that? So this is storyboard, and it helps a lot to plan. How can you see these are parts or pieces of the script in the storyboard? Pieces of the script here as well in the storyboard. The storyboard is very useful. You see, we've already drawn this before we even begin to animate, so that it will help your. Imagine if you give this to your background artist. Your background artist will know the things to draw before while you are even animating. The background artist can say, "Oh, in this scene, of course, cars are supposed to be passing. Trees are meant to be passing by here. So I'm going to draw a lot of trees that we are going to keyframe to go from left to right. Here we know that there needs to be a congregation." And there needs to be a congregation here. So the background artist will know what to draw right from the beginning. All right. So that's why storyboard is very important. So after storyboard, then you now begin to draw the key poses. So key poses could be, you could start from skeleton and then you flesh it a bit. And then the key poses, you pay more attention to the drawings in the key poses. The in-betweens are fast. They come and go really fast. So your eyes might not process it as much. But the key poses have more attention, because in the key poses you spend more time on that in terms of the animation itself. So example, a key pose can be, why are you always angry whenever I'm telling you about so. Now you see this hand is stationary. Of course, we have the anticipation, the follow through, and the resting pose. So you see that resting pose is the key pose, and then you have the mouth moving. So every other thing is stationary except probably the eyes blinking. But you spent enough time to develop everything. So those extra actions that you added, those ones can be, you can pay less details to them. I hope we understand. I hope we are getting it. So you draw the key poses and then you add the in between. All right. So there was a short animation that I did in one of the trainings that I did, and that was this one. Now, before I go into this, let me quickly add another key element of animation that you need to keep in mind. You see, so after, let me just go back. I need to go back. You see, before we do these two, there is something that should come in between them. And it is also very, very important. And what is that, you might ask? Let me bring this down first. And that is gathering references. I cannot overemphasize the importance of references. For those of us who saw the YouTube video that I did about the Abejoye subscribe video, as simple as it was, I still recorded myself doing it. I realized that a lot of professional animators gather reference either online or by themselves. Position your phone and then you record the actions that are due for the audio that has been recorded, and you take those actions as a guide, because there are a lot of things that your eyes might not see, but if you add it to your animation, it helps a whole lot. Typical example, when the guy was saying, I bind you, I rebuke you. Normally, if I'm animating that off the top of my head, I would just make him say, I bind you, I'll just do this. I bind you, I rebuke you. But when I was acting it out, I realized that I used one hand to lean on the bed while I used the other hand to point. So because of that, I animated the hand to lean on the bed. If I was just animating on the top of my head, I wouldn't have added that. It would have just been this. But then he did this. I bind you, and then he switched hands again and did this to show that he was tense. That's what I noticed when I acted it out. Sometimes when you act it out, you get to see extra actions that you wouldn't have seen if you just went on to animate straight away. Are we following? So it's important to gather your references. So you can do this by recording yourself or people, um saving pictures. Like maybe you want to strike a key pose of a guy landing like this, and you know that, oh, there are a lot of Spider-Man images online that I can get of him in their poses. So you capture that, save it as a key pose and a reference, and as a reference for your key pose. It helps a whole lot. So when you're able to do these, all right, then you can now begin to animate. So I felt I should add this. So don't forget, first one, get a script, record the audio, get a script, record the audio, get your references. Very important. After getting your references, draw your storyboard. So drawing your storyboard, getting your references, all that can happen simultaneously if you are not the only one in the project. All right. Then after storyboard, getting references, then you draw key poses, do the in-betweens. After in-betweens, you add the color. After color, you can export into your editing software where you add music and etc. etc. Yeah, so let me look for that one again. Where is that one that I had just now? I just saw it now. Where did it go? I just saw it now. Come on. I just saw it now. I'll find it. Anyway, I think I'll use this one then. If I can't find that one, I'll use this one. Now, in this particular one, you see, I had to record myself. I don't know if we have seen this animation before. It's also another subscribe animation that was done. If I should invisible this one and enable the rest, you would see where the drawing is. Can you see that? Now, this one, I believe, is this one. Can you see? You see can you see all the falling down, everything was created. No, wait, was this one. If I should invisible all of this. Can you see? No, wait, that's this one right here. Can you see? That's this one. So I did reference for everything. In fact, if you are a very, very fantastic artist, then maybe you might not rely too much on references. But if you are not a good artist, if you're not that great like me, man, boy oh boy, do you need references. Like you really need references. Let me see if it's this one. Aha, this is what I was looking for. So this was the original drawing, correct? All right, look at this. So this was the original reference video. However, when I show you, the first thing I did, of course, was the key poses. Key poses where, if I should add this one to it. Now, mind you, because it's a reference, you don't need to copy exactly how it is. You only need to harvest the key poses from them. You only need to what? Harvest key poses from them. So in my own case, this was a key pose. This was a key pose. So that means, can you see this? Look at a subtle example of squash and stretch. This one squashed down, came up, and then landed. Can you see? Came up and landed. But before I added all this up and down, I drew the key pose first. The one key pose, another key pose, another key pose, right? Another key pose. Can you see that? Another key pose. Another key pose. Can you see how I was harvesting all these key poses? This one, and then there was a repetition. So when I play it now, this is what we have. You see that? So I harvested the key poses from the original video. It helps a lot, a great deal. And so don't be afraid to do key poses. Get your camera in a bright lit environment and record yourself before you even animate. Now this is Calipeg, okay? Calipeg is one of the ones I've been using back in the days. This was what I used for the first 2 subscription videos, but for the last one is another software called Toon Boom Harmony. But I don't want to get into that because it's still showing me Pepe at the moment. So let me put it aside. But don't forget, animation is all about motion and motion through drawings. So if you want your ball to bounce, for example, which is an assignment that I would like to give everybody, do the bouncing ball in one spot. Okay, do the bouncing ball in one spot, up to down, then do the bouncing ball going like this. Okay, so how do I do that? I'll draw the path first of all. Let me do that again. This. So after drawing the path, what's the next thing? I'm going to create another layer on top of that. This one should extend to the end because it's just a guide for me. Now I'm going to come to my new layer and say this is my ball. Okay. When it gets here, I need to onion skin. It stretches, settles a bit, then stretches again, squashes down, stretches again, looks normal, stretches again, looks normal, squashes, stretches a bit, looks normal here, squashes. Yeah, so let's check it through. So can you see this? Boing, boing, boing. Yeah. Let me highlight it and play it alone. Boing, 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 boing. Can you see that's the bouncing ball? And I added squashing and stretching to it. So you can practice with this, practice with the bouncing ball, practice with keyframe. If you can experiment that'll be fantastic. In another tutorial, probably another time, we can begin to look into the rudiments of Calipeg in itself, because teaching the app is another like 2 hours, but I can't teach the app if we don't know the principles yet. If we don't know the principles, then I can't teach the app. So we need to first understand the principles, rehearse the principles, and then we begin to talk about softwares. It's the same principle, it's the same technique in something like Flipperclip. This Flipperclip. Flipperclip also deals with motion and also deals with frame by frame. So if I create a new one, I name it whatever. Okay, create. So you see, it has given me a timeline. So the things that you must see in every animation software. Number one thing you must see is your canvas. If you don't see a canvas, it is not an animation software. What is a canvas? Your drawing area. This is your drawing area. All of this is your canvas. All right. Number two thing that you must see for Flipperclip, you see this is my canvas. Number two thing that you must see is your timeline. This is the timeline for Flipperclip. So if I add plus, I can add another thing. Plus again, add another thing. You see how I'm just adding layers. As I'm clicking the plus icon, I'm adding more stuff. And it is even giving me onion skin, if you can see. So if I play this now, this is what we have. Can you see that? Don't mind if it's breaking in your own side. It's because of the network. It's supposed to be playing smoothly. So, as I was saying, the first thing is a canvas. The second thing is your timeline. The third thing is your tools. Your tools. For Flipper Clip, these are the tools over here. You have your brush, and the brush is always having a pen or brush, eraser, lasso tool, and paint bucket, and then of course text. So this one has the brush, or if I long press it, I should be able to change it to pencil. Yeah, you can change the brush type to anything. So I've changed this to ink now, and it looks different. Anyway, we have the eraser to erase. We have the lasso tool. Lasso tool is very handy, especially if you are animating, so you can select something and change its direction or position. It works handy if you are animating a head and the head is meant to do this. So instead of drawing the head all over again, you just lasso tool the head and rotate it in the next frame. Okay, then of course the paint bucket tool. If you draw something like so, you can use the paint bucket to fill it. Are you getting me? Very simple. So it also applies to Flipper Clip. You see, we have a pen, we have eraser, we have paint bucket, we have cursor, and then we have lasso. This is a lasso tool. So with the lasso tool, I can select the region as well. Then I click on my pointer and then move it. You see, move it to any point in time. So if you don't see these three things, all right, or these four things, then it is not an edited, it's not an animation software. So Calipeg isn't free to the best of my knowledge. I think it's about maybe 5K, 5,000 naira or so. I don't remember. It's been long I bought it. But you can buy it. But Flipper Clip is free, so you can experiment with Flipper Clip. All right. Although the extra features are not free. For example, if you want to add multiple layers, I'm not sure if that comes with. But so you see, when I was talking about layers, you see this one also has layers. So if I click this right now, and I click plus, there's another layer that I can also add stuff. Oh, sorry. And I can also add stuff. And I can keep adding stuff to this. Let's say I want to give him a, oh, come on. Yeah, the second one. Maybe I want to give him a red tail as he's moving. So I can change this to red. And then, so you see, because tails have, a different motion, I can add a tail to it. So add a tail to this, add a tail to this. I'm adding a tail to this. See how I'm adding. Now this tail is not in the same layer as the black worm. The tail is not in the same layer as the black worm. The tail is in layer 1. The black worm is in layer 2. Can you see that? So in case I want to delete the tail again, it is very easy for me to simply click the layer and delete. So if I play now, you see? You see? So if you want to like do someone's hair, you can also use something like a different layer to achieve that. So I want us to experiment. This should not be the end of the class. This should just be an introduction for us to experiment. So what I want you to experiment is something simple. For example, write probably your name in block. Okay. After writing your name in block, then write it again in 2 other times or 3 other times, and then duplicate it so that it moves. It feels like it's alive, so to speak. There was something I didn't say regarding keyframing. Another advantage of keyframe, you see, it's kind of moving. Another advantage of key poses, not keyframing, of key poses. Remember, I talked about key poses. Another bunch of key poses is it helps your animation to be consistent. You see, part of the issues we have as animators is when we are animating, let's say the leg is supposed to be like this, right? And the second leg is meant to come this way, and then the other one is meant to go like this again. Now, the issue is if you keep animating this way over time, the volume of your drawings can change. You will not know when you've gone from a skinny leg to a fat leg because you keep adding keys, you keep adding new poses every time. But if you do something like you draw the first one like so, then you go, you add several frames forward and give us the next key pose, and then you move several frames forward again and you give us the next key pose, then you now begin to fill the in between. It will help your volume to be consistent. Okay, so like I said, this is not the only class that we would have. This is just an introduction for us to go and experiment. Okay, I want us to experiment, have questions that we can ask so that next time we come, we are going to be communicating as professional animators, in quote, because I'm also not a professional. I'm just learning. Okay, so I don't know if we have any questions before I call it a day for the end of this lecture, and then we meet again for a conclusion and questions and answers. But for now, I would. Oh, Simon has a question. You have a question? Go ahead, sir. You can go ahead. Or you accept you want to experiment and save the questions for the next time we gather.
Okay, how do you add color to the frame?
Beautiful question. How do you add color to your frame? So remember I talked about layers. Let me quickly show us that the best way to add color to your frames or to your images is by creating another layer under the main layer and adding your color to it. So for example, if it's this one I've drawn, if I want to add layers, if I want to add color, I'm going to create another layer, probably place it underneath, okay? And then I can begin to add color. So let me change the color of this to probably black. Oh, my bad, sorry. Not paint bucket, brush. So now I can begin to add color. Can you see? Now, if you notice, as I'm shading here, it's not affecting the outline. Can you see that? It's not affecting the outline. Let me change the brush type to something, to pen, yeah. I can increase the size of the pen. So yeah, see, as I'm adding this, it's not affecting the outline. That is because it's on a different layer. So if I do this again, can you see that? So it's always advisable to use a different layer. But if you want to use the same layer, maybe for some reason you feel confident, you know, that you don't have anything that you would want to correct in the future, then by all means go ahead and paint in the same layer. But if you are not sure and you know that you might need to adjust things later on, then I would advise that maybe you want to change the color later on. It's advisable to add color in a different layer. See that? So now we have the moving J. The same thing applies to Calipeg. If I want to animate now this ball that I just drew, if I want to color it, I always try to create a new layer by pressing up here, new layer, and of course I place it underneath. And now I begin to color. I begin to color. Go to the next frame, color. Let me change it so that I'll change the color so that it's up. You can see it better. Let me use green. We need to color. color. Can you see that? Oh, my bad. I'm coloring on the same layer. I'm supposed to be coloring on this lower layer. So if I zoom in, you will notice that it's not affecting the red because the it's underneath that it's underneath that layer. So everything that is added is under, not on top. I hope we understand. I hope you understand. All right. So yeah, that's that.
Thank you very much, Jaymikee. It was really an expository
Pleasure.
time to learn, and thank you for your time. I've been checking through the comments in the chat section, and it's been an amazing session of learning and getting to acquaint ourselves with animation. So there are a few questions here before we call it a day. Someone's asking, please, about the audio. What app should we use to record?
You can use anything to record your audio. In fact, you can use your phone to record your audio. What is important is editing your audio. After recording it, maybe you want to edit it. You can use something like CapCut to edit your audio. So if you use your phone, get it good. If your phone has good mic, you can use your phone. You can use anything. It doesn't matter. The important thing is to capture the voice. Then you have to edit that audio before you begin to animate so that you have the proper finished audio, not with music sound effects, just the voicing. And then after you've edited it according to the duration of your animation, how it's meant to be, then you can take that audio into your editing, into your animation software, and begin to animate.
All right. Thank you very much for that. There's someone who is asking that I don't have a drawing skill. So what can I do? What can the person do? What advice do you have for the person?
Yeah, so something I was supposed to say at the very beginning.
Okay.
If you want to animate, you need to have at least a basic drawing skill. However, if you don't have, then you are probably going to be like a producer, such that you have the ideas, you have the concept, then you gather the artists together and share your ideas. You might not be able to draw, but you should be able to do a stickman, storyboard. So if you deal with the storyboard while professional artists deal with it, that's what I did a lot of times. I draw the storyboard and I give it to professional artists. We have artists like Imole, Steven, David Okon. These people, I just give them the rough drawings, and then they know what it's about and give proper detailed drawings to it. So if you can't draw properly, you need to work with a team of people that can draw, and you give them the vision that you have, and then they materialize it.
All right. I also see the need to collaborate to get the job done. Well
Absolutely.
done. All right. I'm seeing a question here. How do you make your drawings look exactly like the references?
Yeah, it's called rotoscoping. I don't want to recommend rotoscoping at the start because it's a very time consuming endeavor. But rotoscoping is basically tracing. When your
All
drawing is
right.
on one layer, and then you open a fresh layer on top of that, and you begin to trace out the drawing. That's rotoscoping. So it is complex, it's time consuming, but it will at least make your drawings look like the reference. But reference is not meant to be copied exactly. Reference is just meant to guide you into how your animation is meant to be. So I wouldn't really recommend trying to copy a drawing, exactly, or else it might give you headache trying to fit every frame into the drawing, every frame into the reference.
All right. Thank you for that. And I think the final question I'll be asking is some persons do not have maybe a system or an iPad. So they are asking, okay, can we use a smartphone or how do we go about it to practice
Yeah,
then
you can
get
use
something
a
done?
smartphone. You can download Flipper Clip on your smartphone. Although you might not really enjoy it, but it's very possible and a lot of people use it. Flipper Clip is available on smartphones, so you
All
can
right.
use that to practice.
Okay. Thank you. Thank you once again for your time. So if you have any more questions, please do well to click on the link. There's a link in the chat box. Drop your question there, and we'll have another session where we get to answer your questions and delve deeper, like our facilitator has said. Yeah, we cannot cover all today. So please do well to click the link and drop your question. Thank you once again, our dear facilitator. Thank you for your time. Pray that God's grace is multiplied over your life. You grow from grace to grace and from strength to strength. In Jesus'
Amen.
name. Yeah.
Amen.
Thank you so much, and God bless you, sir. All
Thank
right,
you
I
for
need to pass.
thank you for the honor. God bless you too.
All right, thank you, and have a wonderful night rest, sir. So before we call it a day, I have um, an information to pass. And the first is, do not forget to subscribe to our YouTube channel. The session continues tomorrow, and we're going to be learning illustration tomorrow. Yes, so please do not miss out. Ensure you are available and join in on time. We'll start at 8 p.m. tomorrow. So please do well to be available. And also, tell your friend to tell your friend to tell your friend about the bootcamp. We cannot wait to have everyone come around to learn. And I've been having questions on the recording, the recording, the recording. All right, the session is recorded and will be made available, but you need to subscribe. Now, there are other benefits attached to subscribing, and I already out to you. First off is you have access to the recording because the recording will be posted on Stellar, and then you have access to a mentorship session with the mentors. For example, Jaymikee is an animator mentor, so you have access to some of the mentorship sessions we'll have later in the year, and we'll also be having a physical hangout. So it's those that subscribe that will have access to come around for the physical hangout. And then what else again? Okay, if you are able to have your work being done, it will be published on the community. That's the Telegram community. By the way, please do want to check your email. The link to join the community is there. So please join the community right away or after this session. You'll get more updates about the bootcamp in the community. And also, if you are able to subscribe, you have access to join or to learn from some of the work team. Yeah. Or if your skills has been well sharpened, you'll be able to work with some of them to ensure that the project they are working on is successful. So what's the price for subscribing? It's 2,000 naira for a quarter. Wow, that's so cheap. So it means that should be like 6,000 naira for a year. So it's not something much with all of these benefits I've said. So please do well to subscribe. We'll push out a link for that, and that will be done. Yeah. Let me see if there's any other thing left. Do not forget to fill the question tab. There's a link in the bio. Please do well to fill the link, and we'll have a session to cater for the questions. We'll call it a day here, and thank you for joining tonight. Please do not forget to join tomorrow. We're learning illustration tomorrow, and will be an amazing time. So please get yourself ready and see you tomorrow. Let's say a word of prayer. Our Father, we say thank you for today. Thank you for today's section. For everything that we have learned, we ask that it stays with us. We ask that your spirit of wisdom rests on our hearts so that we can reprocreate these things and they shapen the world for you. Thank you, faithful Father, for it's in Jesus' name we pray. Amen. So please do not forget to subscribe. Do not forget to join the community on the Telegram, and you'll get more updates on that group chat. God bless you and see you tomorrow. Have a wonderful night. Bye.